All right, so I definitely want to get into today talking about closing leads that convert from LinkedIn to CRM, because that's just been brought up repeatedly for us the last few months, where like our clients are asking us to help dial in some stuff there. And like, I've always kind of been of the persuasion where it's like, stick to your swim lane, let's stick to LinkedIn. But then there's always that tension where it's like, man, if you can't follow up on your CRM, you're not going to close the lead. If you don't have some kind of email sequence set up to make sure that the demo gets booked, it's going to fall through the cracks. And then inadvertently that falls back on us because it's like they're not closing as many leads as they could, so their customer acquisition becomes too high. And anyways, so let's, I definitely want to make sure we get there. But before we do, anybody else have anything that they want to bring up before that? Questions, challenges?
I got big stuff to bring up, but I'll go last. Really?
It's crickets, Mike.
Yeah,
you might have to.
But again, I'll help you loop it back to, so it's not like a pitch. So it's really, you're keeping the topic is the retention, and you kind of, for example, in my company, Macintosh Search, so because people, again, they don't want to hear about you. They want to hear what's in it for them, but you can give them examples to say, here's how we've done this. So what is your average retention, for your, they may not know for their employees, but their customers. That's really important, because if they're having customer turnover, that indicates some kind of internal problem. The employees are not delivering the customer service, the quality, the turnover, the ramp up time. So, hiring right really does impact your ability to retain customers. And if you have a high retention rate, then the correlation.
Yes, Judy, you were cutting out just a tiny bit there. So, Judy, you're still with us? Not. Okay.
Judy.
All right, Judy, not trying to be mean. Let's move on though, just because you're choppy. Sorry about that. Anybody else?
Has anyone worked with Sales Navigator Enterprise?
I have no, just Team and Pro.
Has anybody but me worked with Sales Navigator Enterprise?
My company helped a client do some organization stuff in Sales Navigator Enterprise, but we didn't actually do any work in it.
Spit it out, Mike. Get it out.
I have a retainer client.
Yeah, that doesn't bode well. That doesn't bode well at all.
Who is adopting Sales Navigator Enterprise, and when I tell you how much it costs, you might kick yourself. $12,000 a year for 10 licenses. Run the math.
Yeah.
$100 a user a month for enterprise.
Yeah, you just need to have a team. Yeah.
You don't need to have 10 users to get your money's worth out of that when I tell you what you get for it, okay?
Yeah, they do the two-way CRM sync, right?
You get your data right out of LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, right into Salesforce.
Yep.
Individual records, lists. The lists belong to the company.
Yep.
And there's no limits.
There's no limit to saved. Oh, nice.
How many do you want? I don't know about the save part. I'm pretty sure we didn't know to ask the question.
Well, something to think about. Again, I don't want to take you off your path there, but I just like to put out an idea. So,
who's Judy talking to?
Sure. So the general idea with this is, and I'm an administrator on it. So I'm a user account on theirs and an administrator. So I'm going to have all the back end stuff going on. I'm in their sales. I have a Salesforce license for them as well. So we're just setting up all the little back end stuff. There's all kinds of little weird stuff, but think of the value on that.
And then another one.
I think I just muted Judy. I think that she was not realizing that she was maybe on another call.
Probably not.
So if you think about it, I mean, even you can get a lot of value with 3, 4, 5 licenses if you need big lists and stuff. You don't have, it's just 12 grand for a license and you get up to 10 people. It's a different way of thinking about it than I got 7 people pay for a license. That's the way of doing business in that world. And at $100 a user, it's less expensive than Team.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Mike. And Mike, remind me, I thought I'd done a support chat about this. if you have the sync set up with Salesforce and somebody you have who's a saved lead, if they change roles and
Yes.
update on LinkedIn, it notifies you so that you can update what's in your pipeline, right?
Yeah, there's either
Yeah.
reports and notifications as people change the old and the new stuff. You get a dedicated account manager, and the tech support team is dedicated. They're taking lead lists out of people, merging together, changing all this stuff on the background. It's not like you got to do this and this. They clean all that stuff on the back end up for you.
Nice.
It's been an amazing experience so far. So we'll see. I'm just telling you what's coming.
Yeah, for sure. So it seems like this is probably going to be more applicable to all of us here. If you like run the marketing department, or if you're a LinkedIn agency, you're working with the client, makes sense to get them signed onto enterprise if they have like 8 people that want to use LinkedIn. Is that where it about starts to make sense?
Depending on what you do, I'd say you start looking at it at 5 users and start seeing it, because if it's an economics thing at 8 or so, but it's a capabilities thing.
Yeah.
Heck, even for a few users, you've got an administrator who's setting up stuff for the other sales reps. It lets you totally do that.
Or is that enterprise client using Salesforce, or anybody using Dynamics there? Because the sync works with both of those, right?
I believe it works with both. This client's just doing Salesforce, and they've got like a big ass enterprise license. I mean,
yeah, I was going to ask what the Salesforce
stuff there, but I think Salesforce will sell you an enterprise license for 10 users as well.
Yeah.
You just got to be willing to pay so much for it.
That's really good to know, Mike. That's really good to know. I think that what LinkedIn does is they'll put the awesome, cool features to the highest paying clients first, and then they'll end up eventually trickling it down. Cool. That's good to know. That's really good to know.
A few weeks ago, LinkedIn notified that they were going to let go 1,000 employees.
Yeah, in the hiring department. So that was because people aren't.
Sorry.
Because it's the wrong demand. That's why, Alfred. So when people get let go, they look for jobs, but LinkedIn doesn't really monetize that. LinkedIn only makes money when employers are posting and paying for the jobs. So not a lot of people are hiring because everybody got let go. So where LinkedIn let their employees go is the people that were involved in the division that gets paid for job posts, basically.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't clear about it. They just said 1,000 people nationwide and the severance package and how they're going to help these people transition into new career choices. So it caught me a little off guard.
Yeah, for sure. Hiring is down, but some of the tools that talent acquisition teams are using is not. Like we're doing a campaign for, and we're actually targeting the talent acquisition, the recruiting department of companies, and they're like still, if it's the right industry, obviously not like hotels and stuff, but if it's the right industry, they're hiring right now, and they're just needing different kinds of assets. So like anything that's used for digital communications for bringing on talent is now more necessary because they're relying less on that in-person part of the hiring process. So there's still an angle to make money there if you can find where the market's needs are. Yeah. Mike, that's kind of funny. Anybody have any struggles, challenges, come across anything new?
Well, we're just, Mike and I are with our shared client are working through all the various things to try to get LinkedIn synced to Zoho, LinkedIn and Ulink synced to Zoho, and we're making progress.
Yeah, webhooks.
Does anyone know how to get an application, a simple web application built inexpensively, like super inexpensive, $500 to get an app built in a weekend, kind of quick code writer guy?
Actually, you're asking the Instagram guy here. Let me look that up for you, Mike, real fast because I saved.
Please do. Let me explain.
Okay.
Or did you send that to him in chat?
Please do, Alfred. Yes.
Yeah, no problem.
The campaign tool that Scott and I are using for this client, I use it for 24 other clients of mine. I have 24 campaign clients right now. It's like, whoa, where'd that come from? We use a tool called Ulink, and Ulink has 3 triggers. So we can be notified when someone connects. And in one case, when someone connects, they kick off a 3 email campaign in Zoho, because Zoho takes that trigger and kicks that off. The other thing is you can be notified when someone responds, when something comes inbound. And that's when you can make it become a lead in Zoho, because only when they respond do I call it a lead. Connecting is not a lead to me, it's a higher lead score. And then when you send it outbound, and I'm wanting to build an app that'll manage the inbound and outbound stuff, so I know when the delays are and I can see the traffic there, and it's worth $500 to me. And
hey, have you looked into Gapsy Builder? They're your own mobile app, and you can do it on your own, drop and drag. Sometimes if you deal with other app companies, it takes 6 to 12 weeks. They have to do all this interviewing and everything. But I
want a guy who's going to do it on a weekend, and I'm going to pay him $500 to code it on a weekend using a simple tool.
This is all drag and drop. Did you look into Gapsy?
No, but when you send me
I'll put it in chat.
do that.
I'll put it as a group chat, because apps are really, really important right now. Apps are better than text messaging. Apps are better than email.
Well, this app is not in that category. I just got to get data out of here over to here in a tickler file that tells me who goes this week. And you can picture this after people have we've sent a LinkedIn message to them and nothing's come back for 2 weeks. So let's send an email at that point, right? So that timing and sequencing of when to move off of LinkedIn, like Isaac is always talking about, get him off of LinkedIn. So we give him a couple messages, a little delay, and then it's time to email the guy. So we click on a link and we send an email to him. That's what I'm trying to build. You know, they knock on LinkedIn 3 times. Let's email.
There's not a lot of connections that will go between the time delay triggers between when you do stuff on LinkedIn and then email and then back again, right? So it's easy to like send the trigger on an action on LinkedIn to using webhook to your CRM or Google Sheet or whatever. But then what you don't get is like the time delay for the last thing in the sequence to do something on the other platform, right?
That's what I'm trying to do in this app here, is essentially kind of gather that sequence of stuff. As soon as, so there's just going to be, when do we move off of LinkedIn onto something else? It's just a matter of when. And this is a nice app that I think my clients would use, because after so many days of this and that, they need a reminder, and having them keep track and setting this week's tags and moving to next week's tags and moving the tag and the system around is not, it's asking too much. You'd like this app, Isaac, but you've got to have Ulink to have it. It requires a tool.
So I think that's a very relevant to what I wanted to get to in a little bit, where we're talking about your sales process to close leads as well within your CRM and email sequences and stuff. Really quick though, I talked to Eric Jaquith, who was with ZapInfo yesterday, and so for those of you who do use ZapInfo, they got acquired by Indeed. And everybody's kind of scared of grabbing information from Indeed, or from LinkedIn. So Indeed's like, let's not let it grab info from LinkedIn. So that's going to be shut down. He said like September 16th or whatever. And he said that, I was like, well, dude, I can't find any tools that will easily ad hoc grab all the whatever 20 some fields on a profile and then pass it to a Google Sheet. I was like, that's the big thing that everybody wants, is to grab the information ad hoc, like when you need it, and then pass it right to a Google Sheet, because there's so many different CRMs out there that's the utility that I feel like has the most need. And he goes, totally. He has 2 friends who are working on, he said, 2 friends working on competing products, basically. When I learn what those are, I'll let you know, or maybe Eric will jump on here and let you know, but that's coming down the road eventually. And I'm really excited about that. So just let everyone know.
I talked to him as well. Was he in Nashville when you talked to him?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a story behind that. I won't share.
I bet.
Those interesting stories to why he's in Nashville.
Cool. Yeah. Poor guy. He said that if the Zappo info would have sold like a month earlier, he would have gotten part of the buyout.
A month later.
Oh, a month later, man.
Yeah, he was 11 months into a
Ah.
12-month deal.
Crazy. Poor guy.
Oh yeah. He said what he told me. He goes, you know that going in. He goes, that's the game going in. You know it.
Yeah.
You know that
Yep.
that yeah, the game is lost in the fourth quarter. Or
Totally.
whatever. So many things happen right at the cutoff point. It was unintentional. And Doug Berg, the guy who owns the company and stuff, is just going to go build another company. It was a good exit time.
Yeah.
Good time to take your money off the table right now, if you can.
Yeah. All right. Any other things before we get into sales funnels and processes for closing leads that came from LinkedIn? Anybody? No?
Yeah, I have a question.
Shoot.
Before the closing, for the sales funnel,
Get out of my way.
how do you guys generate the leads? I mean, is it just basically the leads that you have who are connections? Is it actively searching for leads? Do you guys what's the procedure for that?
So it's kind of a loaded question, right? Because you're talking about how do you get leads on LinkedIn, right?
I'm saying because the type of leads you get matters based on what you're doing for closing. So I'm saying, what leads are we talking about? Like how?
So I think that, let's frame the conversation maybe a little bit better, huh? So you're on LinkedIn and you've got two ways that the contact becomes a lead. Either number one, through the dialogue on the LinkedIn platform, they tell you that like they opt in somehow, right? So then you would pass their information to a CRM, and then you would need to close the deal for an acquisition. The other route that you could go is maybe they're not engaging on the platform, but you're connected. And then before that LinkedIn engagement, you move them to your CRM and then rely on something like an email sequence. It's kind of the same thing where they need to express some kind of they need to do some kind of opt-in to go from just a contact to a lead. And so what I want to talk about today is not even so much like the call to action and the process of getting the lead, but once someone says like yes, once they accept your CTA, once they say yes to yes, please email me more info. Yes, send me your contact info. Yes, let's do a call. Yes, let's schedule a demo. What does your process look like for taking that lead and then closing it? Because what we find is that it's rare for small, even to mid-sized companies to have the process in their CRM set up like at all, let alone strong. And what happens is you can get a lot of leads from wherever, but they don't have the systems and processes to close them. Do you guys experience that with your clients at all as well? Like I don't want to take on someone as a client unless they have that set up, but sometimes they have it set up. I'm like, there's room for improvement. Let's just get them on board and dial in later.
So in our business, what we're getting them to agree to have a conversation. And at that point, it becomes an administrative thing inside the client. So we're passing it on to them, but then we babysit it just by bugging them if it's not happening. But we tend to have a 20% drop off between people saying they want to have the conversation and actually having the conversation. And that's with bugging them for a little while.
Yeah. So is the 75% follow through rate? Do your clients then have, like, are they in their CRM, like following up through the CRM with that contact to get the conversation?
Yeah, I think, if they're using HubSpot or something like that, but some of our clients they prefer to use a spreadsheet. They're some of these agencies and things that can't be bothered with CRM. So it's a matter of we're putting, when the people agree to and this is so manual, it's probably going to make Mike go nuts, but we put them, when they agree to a conversation, we put them on a spreadsheet and we're just watching to see when we have the client's assistant will update it for us to say this conversation's been scheduled, then it actually happened, and we just have to keep bugging them.
When you say
Yeah.
a spreadsheet, do you mean like a Excel or a
Yeah,
web-based
just a
spreadsheet,
Google-
like a Google sheet?
We're just using a Google Sheet. Yeah.
Good, that's better because you can trigger and do all kinds of stuff from a Google sheet from there. So
Yeah.
Isaac and I want to get our stuff into a Google sheet, and from there we can go to any other system, right? Right, Isaac? Is that
Yeah.
why you like it so much, like I do?
Yeah. Yeah,
Gateway
absolutely.
to any other place.
It's just a time suck otherwise. But again, if your client is the one who's doing it, then Susan's off the hook. They're just doing that.
Well-
It's more for the client success to have the systems and process to close it.
Yeah, I guess, the way that I look at it is we can get them calls all day long, as many as they want. But if they don't turn it into business, ultimately they're going to say our program didn't work.
Exactly. That's exactly the pain point that I'm talking about. Yep. Because the cost per lead can be great, but the cost per acquisition is too high because they're not closing deals. So our life becomes easier, or if you're doing LinkedIn yourself, your life becomes easier when you have the systems and processes to close deal, because then the cost per acquisition stays low. And then you can actually do less leads and keep them just as happy. And then, Susan, make your opportunity run away even longer.
Well, that's what, when we start off with a client, we're like, how many calls can we get them so they can start learning? But then it quickly becomes, what is the call to opportunity ratio? So how many of those calls do they identify an opportunity? And then from opportunity to closing, and that, that really is sales, and we're not sales people or consultants by any stretch, but we will, if they can't close an opportunity, then we'll push them into talking to a sales consultant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isaac, in the world I'm in, the big hill that's sometimes too far, too high of a hill is they don't have a CRM system.
Mm-hmm.
And to get the most out of what I do, it would be best if they had one.
Yeah.
And that's this huge project over here that takes them out of my project and puts them into some other project. And there's only so many resources to go around, and everything falls down because nothing got done, because we needed the CRM system that we didn't have to take advantage of the campaign system that we do have.
Yep.
A question on the
Help me
CRM
with that.
system is it because they just don't have the resources or the capabilities to set up the CRM system to work with all of your lists, or what's going on?
They've never had one. So
Lots of excuses.
All kinds of reasons. They work with spreadsheets. Getting them from Excel to Google Docs and Google Sheets is a step in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But most of them have not. And I drive them to. I've been recommending Pipedrive because I know it.
Mm-hmm.
Implement Pipedrive. I'll answer some questions for you, but I'm not going to set it up for you. I'm not gonna. But I'll show you what I know. But it's $2,500. The partners and folks I know that set up CRM systems, it's $2,500, and at that case, it's a 60-day period that they take to do that. And here are my clients who want to set up campaigns and get going next week. So what do I do? What's your advice?
Mike, I feel your pain, and I've been, and probably Susan here and everybody else, and Scott that does LinkedIn, and Judy too. So I'm kind of, I'm tinkering around with, like, maybe you have a business alliance with a company that specializes in it.
Yeah,
and then
they have a 60-day methodology, and there's, if I find one with a 10-day methodology, I'm going to sign them up.
But yeah, well, and even if it's like a month, but I think that the process there is maybe you have to control the billing, right? That's why you've got to control the invoices. You got to control the billing. So it'd be like maybe the leads in CRM, you don't want to do the setup. You have a partner with the company, you bill your client, and then you pay the company that sets up the CRM and sales funnel. And then when they're done, you already have them on a recurring invoice.
I think that's too much for me to swallow. I don't want to get in the middle of, I got a problem with my CRM, and Mike, you sold it to me. You're the one who's building it to me. I can't get a hold of Jack, and my systems aren't going in. I just don't want anything to do with that. And billing means not me. It's just a rapid CRM upload with someone who's got a system in place to quickly get somebody done, as much automated as possible. Fill out the forms, and it does this or that. So I'm looking for that. If someone knows somebody and it doesn't take the money they were going to spend with me and put it in their pocket instead of mine,
Right.
I know someone
we're going to do the CRM system instead of you, Mike.
I know someone that charges, actually, I just messaged him about it yesterday. He said if they don't know their branding, their marketing message, that's 1,500, and then setting up the email sequences to close deals in the CRM. I'm not sure about the actual CRM setup, but
I'm not even
2,500.
asking for that.
Well, and see, that's
I'm
the
just
thing we're
asking for a
finding.
basic.
That's the thing I'm finding, and Mike's seen too, is I mean, we're finding that the people who can help with, you know, the marketing side of it, the business strategy side of it, are not the same people who can do the technical setup. And so I'm finding people who can do each piece of that, but not finding someone who can kind of integrate it.
Might want to consider, I use Airtable a lot, and I like it because it's right in between a Google Sheet and a CRM. It's more structured. It gives you more structure than a Google Sheet. It's more flexible. You can pick lists and sorts and filters and views a lot more easily, but it's not so structured as a CRM that you really have to think that all the way through, and it takes 60 days to implement.
My little app that I talked about building here is designed to fill that little gap for someone who doesn't want to do that whole thing, but they want to know 2 weeks later, I got to do this. And maybe I can snap a finger and launch my Gmail, my regular old Gmail, not a whole system of all that. It's a step in the right direction. And then they're used to tracking data.
I mean, if an alternative is a Google Sheet, then if you could theoretically do it with a Google Sheet, Airtable is going to be much, much better than a Google Sheet in terms of use and flexibility and construction and views and the kinds of things it can do.
I don't want to suck up any more time here, but this Tanya deals with CRM stuff a lot. Susan does as well. It's getting someone who doesn't have one to having one and not letting that get in the way of all the stuff we're doing. That's kind of what that question came to, because I lost a client because I recommended a CRM and they did that instead of me.
Yeah. I find with CRM talk, it's just an ongoing conversation. The client has to understand the value of it, and that is just an ongoing conversation with them. And like drip, 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 that's it. That's the only way. If they're not going to just randomly sign up and go, oh, that's a great idea, and then just jump ahead, because they're already spending all that money. So maybe Airtable is the best way to look into it. And it really sucks that you lost that client because you recommended a CRM. That
was like 3 years ago, before we were doing the cool stuff I'm doing now. I wouldn't lose them now in that environment, but frankly, they needed it. They had a sales team of people, and they're picking and choosing who's going to do what.
Right.
You need a CRM to manage.
Yeah, you need to have it managed
across the team.
What we'll do, I don't want to work with a company if they don't already see the value of a CRM, because that means that they just don't have a really strong sales team. Right. But I don't want to convince them of something that they should already know to have their adult pants on to get it done. But if somebody is not there and I'm like, oh, I really, really want to work with you guys, what I'll do is I'll pull up a spreadsheet that has the average acceptance rates, reply rates, and conversion rates. And then I'll just use math. There's a math formula in there that says, if we do this many connection requests, this is how many leads we typically see. If your acquisition rate is 10%, this is how much money you're going to make in this month. If your acquisition rate is 30%, you're going to make this much, and you're not going to get 30% without CRM. And then I'll kind of leave it and say, all right, so you want to work together? Yes. Okay, cool. I'm going to send a follow-up email we'll do a follow-up conversation in 2 weeks from now, and I'll schedule it in my stuff and say, hey, did you get your CRM set up? And I've been wondering too, if I should just have a partnership and do it so that I don't lose people, but yeah. And then here's another thing too. Eric, I want to ask you about Airtable in a minute. We had a client where they were on HubSpot, and they were paying, but they didn't have sales. HubSpot sales, I think it's $250 a month, but then you get 5 licenses, or for 5 users, I believe. It could be off on the price in there, but once you hit 5 people, it kind of makes sense financially.
They actually changed their pricing. They made it $400. We're actually a HubSpot certified marketing agency also, so we have their products too. I'm very familiar with HubSpot.
Awesome. Thanks, man. So a lead would come in from LinkedIn. We'd add them to HubSpot, queue up the task, like they either wanted to more info emailed, like a vendor application, whatever it was. but they didn't have the sales, like the automated email sequence in HubSpot because they weren't paying for it. And what they would have to do, and this is why I want to talk about this, is they would have to like go to their activities, send whatever email template they had, check follow up in 3 business days to then do this and do it again and again and again. And if you have 30 leads come in and you're manually doing stuff to make sure people book the call, that is not scalable for you at all. And so they ended up just this week switching to paying for whatever level that was. We turned their email templates that were in HubSpot into a sales sequence, and now it's a one-click thing and we're done. One click and done, and they get the same emails. Makes sense? It's way more scalable. You can do a lot more. But anyway, that's kind of just like having the value of having the process. My question is like, what does that look like for like, have you guys done any of that kind of stuff? Like, because we're getting our hands dirty on that. Does anybody here mess with the email sequences that go out to like close, like to get the call and stuff, Emil? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wanting to do that. I think we're all wanting to do. Yeah. We buy off on your principle, Isaac, of get the conversations spun over on email somehow over here. We buy off on your idea there.
So Emil, give us a couple pro tips on, like, let's say, can we do 2 call to action examples where someone opts in, and then if cool, and if this is too much, just let me know. But like what if somebody wants more information, so they're higher funnel, it's more educational, but they're a good candidate to sell to. And so taking the conversation leaves LinkedIn, higher funnel, educational, send me more material. And then scenario 2, they want, like, they say yes to like booking a demo on LinkedIn. Yeah.
So the way that HubSpot teaches us about how the funnels work, like Isaac said, there's top funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel, and a good website, or I mean any landing page on any any place that you're trying to advertise. You should be focused, that your message should either be addressing the top funnel, middle funnel, or bottom funnel. Now, what does that mean? The top funnel is somebody who's not aware of your brand or your service, and they're just browsing, which is most people. They just want to get free information. So for a top funnel visitor, you could give them like a guide or some sort of free download, a white paper, some sort of comparison chart or something like that. And then a middle funnel is somebody who's heard of who you are, what you have to offer, and that's somebody who's interested but still not ready to buy. Meaning they want a free demo, like you said, or a free evaluation of your product, something to get them moving along. And the goal is to move them down the funnel. And bottom funnel is somebody who's kind of like ready to go and wants a quote or wants to do business and wants to know what the next steps are. So on our website, for example, we have get a quote, which is the bottom funnel, which is in the header menu. Middle funnel is a free consultation, and then the top funnel are like free guides on what kind of IT services you need or to get a free disaster recovery plan. Now, honestly, I don't get anybody from LinkedIn to go to the site yet. We just started working on that. We were more focused on SEO and things like that. But the way that it works is if somebody clicks on a button, let's say for a free consultation, then what that does is they go to a landing page, they fill out the form. That form gets automatically subscribed. That contact gets automatically subscribed to a workflow. And the workflow is just basically a series of 3 timed emails. Usually they go out in the first day and then maybe right away, then the 4th day or the 7th day, depending on how we time it. Now, the goal of each email that's automated is to get them basically to become a customer. And depending on what they filled out, then the emails basically give them some sort of free resource again. Yeah, we guide them to our blog, which has some good materials. Again, the where we guide them, like the articles, depending on which form they filled out. And then once they request, let's say they click on, okay, schedule a demo or get a quote, to move down the funnel, depending on where they are, then we actually schedule the quote, and I go through the sales process, which I have I have a slide deck, and we go through our procedures and what we can offer. And then only after I go through the demo would I send them a quote. So that would be separate. We just actually implemented that, where we send a quote only after they go through the demo, because then they could see what we do. But the email process, it's basically automated. As soon as somebody fills out a form, they get added to a list, and then each list gets a series of workflows depending on, what service they're interested in and what stage in the buying process they are.
Yeah. And so like, Emil, I think what most of us in here are doing is we're having the conversation via messaging on LinkedIn and not relying on, I mean, you might have it set up, but in this context, it's more, you've talked to them, they've told you where they're at, you're skipping the website altogether and you're going right, you're adding into CRM, bypassing the form opt-in, you're doing it and plugging them into the workflow, the corresponding workflow.
You're manually putting their data into the CRM, their contact info?
Or you can pass it in using like a Google Sheet and Zapier or whatever, but you've identified where they're at and which workflow is appropriate.
So then HubSpot has a lists feature. So like, for example, we have lists of people who fill out get a quote or fill out, they want IT support or IT consulting, whatever they do. And once we add them to the list, then you can enroll them in a workflow. So that's just, that would be the process. I don't know how to automate that from LinkedIn, meaning like Zapier and things like that. I haven't done that. We just have it set up on our website because the website is built on HubSpot and it all works together. And the benefit of that is also you could have closed loop marketing, meaning you would know exactly where the lead came from, how long it took for them to get there, and what your conversion rates are every step of the way. That's really the goal.
So what does an email workflow look like from someone who's requesting more like higher funnel educational material? What does that workflow look like via email when someone opts in to like scheduling the demo?
So if it's a higher function, let's say, let's just use an example, a disaster recovery plan template. So that just means if you have if you have some sort of disaster in your office, whether it's a flood or a fire or some other type of emergency where your IT equipment is not accessible for whatever reason, you don't have access to your server or things like that. So the disaster recovery plan template basically outlines what steps you would need to take, and who would be responsible to try to get your access back to your data. So we help you by giving you that plan, but then to fill it out as a whole thing and implementing as a whole thing, then they would probably reach out to us and work with us to do it. So if somebody goes on disaster recovery plan, usually they would find it via a blog article or something like that, or they would express the interest in doing like server backups, things like that. They want to be prepared in the event that something happens. So the first email that goes out is, hi, thank you for downloading our guide. Please find the guide attached to this email. And it's not a guide, it's the plan, the template for the guide. And then we basically, in the first email, we don't make a sale or anything. We just tell them, here's your free template. If you have any questions, you could always reach out to us for one of our technicians to help you fill it out. And then we give them 1 or 2 blog articles to read about preparing for a disaster outside of the template. And then the second email, we basically have another form that it's a link to a form in the second email to schedule a demo of what we offer. The second email goes out like 3 or 4 days later. And we also add more resources for them to read, like some blog articles that are related, like, hey, if you want to get more information, you could read these blog articles. And then I don't remember if we include another like guide or something like that, but basically each email tries to help them understand, what they downloaded, how it works. And we kind of give them an option to reach out to us by filling out another form to get on the line with somebody who's going to help them. But once we get in touch with them, that's when we try to, give them their options. So we don't push a sale. It's really just trying to be helpful in terms of, giving them the tools they need to get it done. But most of the time they can't get it done themselves because it requires a little bit more, knowledge than most, they do. And the people who actually have a budget and are looking to do it, then they try to compare your options, see if it's a good fit and see what other vendors offer. And, that's how we try to close it.
And what about when the sales cycle is long? So like, for example, some of our clients, their clients might only make a purchase once every few years. Like Stennebeck here, Isaac Stennebeck, their clients might not need their services for like once every 3 to 5 years, like if they're doing a new huge website. And so what if somebody is interested in perusing, but they're not going to be even ready to make a purchase for 12 months? Do you just schedule it out and stay top of mind via email, like once every few months to check in as a sequence?
So I don't have that automated, but I was actually recently, when you guys were talking about Nashville, I was signed up with Robin Robbins with Technology Marketing Toolkit. She does like a whole marketing seminar, and that's in Nashville. And well, she's from Nashville. That was in Franklin, Tennessee, and we were there a few months ago with my partner, and she introduced a very interesting concept. She said, what you just said, for our sales cycles are also pretty long. It takes like several months sometimes to close an IT contract, because it's a big decision, and depending on the size of the company, they don't want to just hand over their IT to you unless they know who you are and what you have to offer. Yeah. It's a decision-making process. So she said that you should be, like you said, top of mind, and it's important to wait for the latent satisfaction to come to a boil, meaning latent dissatisfaction. That's how she introduced, meaning that most customers initially, when they sign up with somebody, they're pretty happy, and then down the line, somebody screws up, something goes wrong, and then they're a little bit dissatisfied. Then they fix it, and then once that happens several times, then they're like, okay, I'm going to look for a new vendor. And when they do that, you want to be, like you said, top of mind. So I didn't have that set up as a process. I'm actually working with their group to do that, which is to have a sequence of emails, like you said, throughout the year. But what they recommend is just to have newsletters and to give them like a drip campaign, different types of campaigns. But I don't have that set up in HubSpot. The only thing that we do have is like 2-3 weeks out, just, to give those series of emails. But, that's something that needs to be, let's say, that's a whole different project to do that. If somebody just fills out a form who wants a demo or something like that, and then they do show an interest, and I speak to them, they're like, okay, I'm going to speak to my superiors and blah, blah, blah. I just follow up with them on the phone, and then I send them emails as reminders and ask them, hey, how's it going? Maybe you want some more information, or free setup. We can help you like with certain parts of it. So I just really follow up manually. There's no automation for that at the moment.
Yeah, it's essentially the more diverse of call to action you can give, which inherently means you also have the funnels to take people, to the close. The more diverse of call to action you can give, the more full your pipelines are going to be. If you can only if your only call to action is let's book a demo, you're not going to be able to on LinkedIn give any other call to actions, and you're just not going to have as many leads in the pipeline. So like we're doing a thing right now. So we just talked about it on Monday with a client where they produce really cool marketing collateral as part of what they do. They do like corporate video, and people are always interested in getting ideas for what they could do. They're always wanting to watch video. It's 2020. So we get a lot of people that say like, yes, send me your portfolio. Let me see some of your work. And I'm sure there's a crossover with a lot of companies there. But they're so top of mind, but we get them off LinkedIn like really easily. But then it becomes a pain point in CRM to stay top of mind with those people. It needs to happen, but the conversation's moved off of LinkedIn. I don't want to like bring it back to LinkedIn. We've made progress. So then how do you rely on CRM or email marketing software to stay top of mind and nurture those leads who are more top of funnel educational to, when their company's ready to buy, associate my client as the trusted vendor? And so I think what that looks like is you almost, if it's a big expensive buy, like 50 grand, 100 grand, then I feel like you almost need like a 12-month campaign to stay top of mind and bring a lot of value. Maybe that's overkill, but like something once a month where you're bringing something valuable. And by the time they're in the meeting where they realize, shoot, we need this, there's only one option in their mind about who the best is. And if you are only doing that manually in your CRM, I just feel like you're not going to do nearly as well.
Isaac, I was going to pitch in there. We, being a co-location data center, our timeline, similar to the IT world that Emil was talking about, it's pretty lengthy. And oftentimes that latency of satisfaction only comes when there's a pain point for them to kind of move down that timeline a little more consistently. So being top of mind is really important for us to be involved in the conversation, but we don't always know when they're moving down that timeline because you're not always privy to the details. So oftentimes I will look for excuses to make personal contact. So if you can gather information about their business, if they've got a blog or a newswire that kind of puts out information about the successes that they've had, finding ways to, maybe on a quarterly basis, to reach back and say, hey, congratulations, I saw that you guys won this particular award. thumbs up. Hey, holler at me if there's anything we can do to help you out. So something real low pressure, just top of mind. Hey, associate that person with this brand again, so that if they're moving down that timeline again, the top of mind awareness is important for us.
That's where the insights on the homepage of Sales Navigator are great. You
get alerts
brought to you.
But that's also on LinkedIn, so it'd be nice if you could just have that all within your CRM as well.
Yeah, it would be nice and maybe there is. It would be nice if you could trigger, something out of LinkedIn that would alert your CRM.
Oh, that's interesting idea.
We have a story about this particular customer. You might want to send them a message. If you could find somebody that knows how to aggregate that info, bring it top of mind to us to say, hey, they're in your funnel. This would be a good piece of information to comment on. Make a touch point.
I mean, there's always those Google alerts. So if you're following clients and talking to them, that goes into your email. Now that doesn't connect with LinkedIn, but that's just a way.
But is there a tool or a CRM that you could, via API, take a Google alert, search your database and say, oh, we have a piece of information related to this customer. Is it relevant for you?
That's interesting. I don't know of one that exists. What about conversely, does anybody know if there's a way to pass a Sales Nav lead or account alert outside of LinkedIn? Has anybody seen anything like that? Okay.
I'd be very interested.
It would be interesting because some CRMs let you use a field as a unique identifier, and usually that's email, right? So you don't create a duplicate. You could make their Sales Nav profile the unique identifier. And then if you can get the alert from Sales Nav to your CRM, that could be the unique identifier to match it up.
Yeah. Or let's say they're posting on LinkedIn or they're sharing something and you want to go comment on their post. Again, hey, I remember that guy. He's the guy that told us about this. So, if that could be, if it's not showing up in your newsfeed consistently, it would be helpful. Or if you've got a really full funnel and you're forgetting who's associated with what project, that would be extremely benefit to have at least.
Yeah, for sure. Scott, were you wanting to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say Zapier doesn't really have any triggers in LinkedIn.
Yeah,
or not even for Sales Nav. It's the ones they do is just normal LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah,
they have triggers.
They have actions. You can create company updates and share updates, so you can kind of push some stuff back. But
yeah. Okay, what about the Snort? Go ahead, Emil.
I just looked up. I signed up for something called PieSync, which I signed up through AppSumo. You guys should all check it out. AppSumo's like free lifetime deals. Not free. It's lifetime deals for good software. And then HubSpot bought PieSync. They're like Zapier. I just read online, it says syncing LinkedIn lead generation forms is currently on the roadmap. So if you do use HubSpot or anything else, I think they'll be able to offer that. I never use it.
Oh, sure. So LinkedIn lead gen forms, what happens there is if you view a website, that's a paid ad campaign thing.
That's not.
Yeah, no, but it's actually, there's maybe a workaround as well. And then I want to talk about booking demo sequences. So LinkedIn lead gen form is when you have a paid ad campaign and then you put like a script on your website. And then when somebody leaves LinkedIn, goes to your website, they're logged into LinkedIn, and then their profile information is auto-filled into the lead gen form. And so when they submit it, what's going to happen is it'll pass it to your CRM. That's what's going on there. That's what Emil was talking about. If I'm understanding that right, because lead gen forms have existed, but it's not been easy to, what's that, Mike?
That'd be nice. It doesn't do everything you want it to do, but if you can get a form pre-populated, whoa.
Well, exactly. Right? And so exactly. But here's the deal. Like most of us here don't do paid LinkedIn ads. And so if you want to utilize the LinkedIn lead gen form, you would have to see if there's a way that you could pull in the information that's being brought in through what's probably like an iframe and then get it yourself. I don't know.
Well, good luck getting data out of LinkedIn into anything else other than that little thing I showed you with the enterprise account thing that blew my mind.
So
I've never seen LinkedIn help you get their data into any other system until that.
So nobody's here's using LinkedIn paid ads like to try to get like a second chance at targeting people who didn't connect with your connection campaign.
No, that's not something we've been doing. Have you been doing that?
We're getting ready to. We're going to be doing that sometime within the next few weeks.
Cool.
Does
Well,
LinkedIn
when
offer
you
retargeting with a pixel like Facebook and Google? Do they have that option?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Scott,
and then
once
you can
you-
also take you could take your lead list and have that be your target. So lead list, account list, and you do your targeting that way. So that's what we're figuring on doing, is taking the 80% of people who were in our connection campaign and and target them with advertising.
let me know once you get your hands dirty. I'd love to hear some feedback on how that goes. Cool. Very cool. So what about if somebody says, oh, we've got like 3 minutes. So I suppose if you got to jump out, totally get it. So if somebody says yes to, like, let's book a demo or schedule a call, what does the CRM sequence look like to make sure that they book it? Like what we've been doing is we have a sequence set up in CRM where they'll get an email and they'll get a sequence of 3, and then they are unenrolled essentially if they book the call. But I don't want to like bother people, but they said yes. So what we'll do is like, we'll tell them we're going to email them, and then we get slacked the notification, goes into CRM, we add into the sequence, we jump onto LinkedIn and say, hey, I just emailed you, did you get it, ? So that they look for it, and then they'll keep getting the email sequence until they sign up, but only 3 times. You guys have any advice on that?
Like, are you asking if there should be some sort of a dependency? Like if they respond or click open the email, it stops or something like that?
I'm saying more like, what is that? I don't know. What's the content look like? How long do you space out the emails? How many times you send them that sequence before you're truly a pain in the butt?
So for our company does reviews. So Google reviews, we help clients get reviews on Google. Duh. Anyway, what we do is we have them spaced out you get one, and then 5 days later you get a reminder, and then 5 days after that you get a final reminder. If they open the email at any point within any of those, it stops the sequence. And also if they click on it, and that also stops the sequence. So I would say 5 days, once every 5 days for 3 times, and then after that, in the last one, just say, hey, just a final reminder, this is it. Bon voyage.
Have any of you guys used Calendly, the little calendar aspect to allow the decision process to be put back in their end? So, it's in the sales process, if you give people an A, B, and C, they're most likely going to pick B, and therefore they're moving down that decision process more consistently. If they're choosing a time, that means they're somewhat committing to the point that it's convenient for them. And so you're kind of getting more buy-in, I guess. How many of you guys have had success using an online calendar like that?
Yeah, we're using it, and I would go so far as to say that or something like it, and there's several other tools that do that, is an absolute must.
Yeah, non-negotiable.
It's as much. It should now be an essential part of selling, of digital selling as assuming a Zoom call.
Scott, why do you think that is? Is that because there is some buy-in and there's a commitment on their end to click and poke around and find something specific?
Well, yes, and it also, it's just a better user experience. Mm-hmm. Just get it done right now. We don't, not having to sit there and have that back and forth of, I'm available on Tuesday and Thursday at 1-3 o'clock, and they go, I'm not, just the whole negotiation process.
Right.
It's a better user experience for them, and it's more efficient for you. I mean, it's a scaling thing too.
I use Calendly too, and I find people are pretty willing to. Once I've had a conversation with them on LinkedIn, I find that people are pretty willing to book a call, and that's usually how I get people off of LinkedIn. Is I chat with them to the point where they're willing to book a call. I send them my link, and then they book a call, and then they're into my CRM. And it's also like it's also a qualifier, because if they're not willing to click the link and find a time and book the call, then they're probably not a good lead.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I find that very successful. Before COVID, no. Post and during, yes, that is very effective using Calendly.
So here, two thoughts on that. Number one, we find that you get less follow through sending the calendar link directly just in LinkedIn. And so we find that it's better to say, I'll email you my availability and then send the link via email for whatever reason. And then I think the downside with a calendar that's outside of your CRM is that you have limited integration with a sequence. So like if you're using Pipedrive, HubSpot, whatever, and you send out that email sequence, how does the email sequence know when to stop if you're relying on Calendly to do the booking? And so what we usually do, like I like Calendly, but we usually use the calendar appointment setting feature that's in the CRM so that the sequence stops when they book it.
Oh yeah, totally. If your CRM has it, so like Zoho has a Zoho integration, and absolutely use the built-in one if it's there.
Yeah. Like I think Calendly works better than most of the CRM calendar ones, but
surprised somebody hasn't tried to pick them up yet. Acquisition.
Yeah. Well, they've got a big market for all the smaller people that, they're not ready for that kind of commitment on a CRM yet. So.
Hey, Isaac, a question on your emails. Is it only the Wednesday that you use the little red stop sign, or do you use that in your other emails?
Just Wednesdays.
Oh, okay. Why don't you do that because what I have found with the stop sign, that it helps me identify emails from you quicker than having to go through. I get 100 emails a day. I get bombarded. Yeah. And so I can go through those really quick and say, there's Isaac, there's a stop sign, boom, I can find you right away. Why don't you do that with all your emails? Not with a stop sign, maybe with a different.
The daily video, you're talking about the only two big email campaigns that we have going on is the weekly hangouts and then the daily videos. And I just feel like if I do it on the daily videos, it might be a little bit too much. That's just I saw a bunch of heads nod there. That's just me making an assumption though. Any feedback on that?
Maybe it's just a different icon, something specific.
Yeah, like a light bulb or something. And then I can look for the light bulb real quick.
That's actually a pretty good idea. Like I could do either the light bulb or the little clock thing.
Yeah, Starbucks does it on all of their daily emails. They'll put a little, and I can quickly, I think they use a star on their daily emails. And if I want to know what's going on with Starbucks, I go quickly through all my 100 emails a day. I look for the star, it's Starbucks, boom, I know what's going on, and it helps filter the trash.
Yeah, it's kind of like the news feeds and your social media. They become very monotonous unless there's a graphic, unless there's a video. The next step is can you put some type of iconology in your text to stop the eye from pushing down the screen? So I've found that the more I try to find appropriate use of icons without it being silly in some of those text pieces, because if I can link in, you only get the first 2 or 3 lines of a post oftentimes. If I can do something to stop the eye because it's something interesting on the page, it helps a little bit.
Yeah, I'll think on that. That's a good suggestion, Alfred. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure, I'll invoice you.
Well, how about we just call it even?
That's right.
I owe you a lot of money, Isaac. So yeah, call it even. I mean, I don't owe Isaac money. You're recording me right now, so
that's right. That's true. That's true.
He has turned me on.
He's
connected me with someone that he should have charged me a fee for. So thank you, Isaac. I'm still in debt.
You're welcome, buddy. Anytime. Anything I can do to help you out. All right, cool. Well, let's call it a day. See y'all next week, and appreciate seeing y'all.
All right.